Hello everybody and welcome back. My name is Kari and today I am doing my March TBR. Had to remember which month it was. February and January were both very ambitious months and I did pretty darn well with them. March was not meant to be an ambitious month, but I have a whole slew of library books that I still need to get through, which means that it's going to be more ambitious than I planned, but I'm fairly confident that I can actually do this. Let's get into it. We're going to start with some of the books that I own that I want to read. There's not a lot of them in this TBR because A, library books are my priority this month, and B, I kind of want to leave it open since I've had such ambitious TBRs the last couple of months to pick up whatever takes my fancy at the time. But one book that I really want to get to is The Light of All That Falls by James Islington. This is the completion of a trilogy, the Lycanius trilogy, and it came out in December. Yeah. But because it was December and therefore Christmas, and then January and February just turned into whatever happened to me those months, I haven't had the chance to get to this. Also, it's huge, so I am a little bit nervous for that reason. It's between 800 and 900 pages, so it wasn't really something that I had the time for these last couple of months. However, I am really excited about this trilogy. I love it, so I want to get to it sooner rather than later, and March is the time. I suppose I should tell you what this is about. There's a thing called the Boundary that's sort of been falling apart over the years, and there's two types of magic users in this world. There's augurs, who are controlled or tethered to the others, the name of which I don't really remember, but at any rate, the augurs are the ones who created the Boundary, and now that it's failing, they're trying to fix it, but they can't do that since they're tethered to these people, and there's a lot of power plays and struggles. It's great, and I'm extremely excited to finish it. Next we have Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe. I intended to read this one in February, and I did start it in February, but if you saw my February TBR, it was 20 books, and so having read 16 and then some extras, I'm not actually mad. But anyway, like I said, I'm halfway through this. It is a classic about a slave in 1852. Thus far, all I know is that he's about to be sold downriver, which means to the deep south where the slavery was what you usually see in movies. Cotton picking, horrifying conditions, all that sort of stuff. So far I have a lot of thoughts, but I will let you know that when I finish them. Then I have The Rose and the Dagger by Renee Audier. I read the first one in February and then bought this one right away because I love it so much. I haven't picked this one up yet because I was hoping to get through some more of my February books, which I did. But this is a 1001 Nights retelling and I love it. I am so excited to get to this one, so this will probably be happening pretty quickly. Library book, The Grapes of Wrath by Alex Bellos. This is just numbers in life and how they fit together. It is a nonfiction book and I borrowed it from the library entirely for the name. I just think it's clever. I'm very curious, and theoretically I can finish this book before Wednesday when it's due, but I also know that I have to renew the other 8 library books I have, so we're good. I would like to continue my reread of Harry Potter. This is the 3rd book, Prisoner of Azkaban. So far I've read a book a month this year. I'd like to speed that up and read them more closely, but with the insane TBRs that I've been putting for myself, that hasn't really happened yet, so I'm going to continue at least with The Prisoner of Azkaban. I'm also going to continue my Throne of Glass reread with Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I have been reading these little baby copies because I think they're cute and they're fun to see how often the character names are highlighted. But I read Assassin's Blade last month, and it's time to read Throne of Glass. And I finally started Elizabeth I and Her Circle by Susan Doran. I'm very not far into this, maybe 20 pages, but I'm super excited to continue this, and I'm hopeful that I can get it done preferably in the next 2 days. Oh yes, that one is a nonfiction about Elizabeth and the inner circle of her, so people like Cecil Lord Burleigh, Walsingham, Dudley, etc. I'd also like to continue reading Outlander with Drones of Autumn by Diana Gabaldon. This is another brick of a book, so we're gonna see how this month goes, because I didn't realize I had so many long books on here. But here we are. By this book, Claire and Jamie are in the States, and Brianna gets more involved. I'm enjoying the series, but they are also getting long, and I think the same complaint I had about Mishner, which is that everything happens to this one family over eons, is significantly more applicable in the Outlander series, because everything that happens to this family, everything that could possibly go wrong in this time happens to them. There we go. And it doesn't even happen in one book, which is what Mishner has, and that's perfectly tolerable. It happens in multiple huge books, which, I mean, they're good books, they're well written. I don't know, I'm getting a little bit tired, but I do want to finish the series. The last one from February is 1776 by David McCullough. I did not get to finish this one. If you can't tell, I'm a little bit stuffed up. I've been sick the last week of February, which means that I did not touch a book until the 28th, after the 21st, because I just didn't have the energy to do it. But I still want to read this one. It's only about 300 pages, so it shouldn't take much, but this is a nonfiction about the start of the American Revolution. The rest of them are library books, starting with Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. One of my coworkers recently read this and said she'd be really interested to hear what I think, since I know a lot more about Henry VIII and his court than she does. So she enjoyed it, but there are a lot of characters and a lot of players in Henry VIII's court, and I'm gonna read it simply because it was recommended. Next we have The Lyncher in Me by Warren Reed. 100 years ago, in June, there was a lynching of 3 black men in Duluth, Minnesota. I've never heard of this in my life. I've been to Duluth every summer of my life. I've never heard of a monument to these 3 men, and there is one, by the way, on the corner of 1st and 2nd in downtown, across the street from where they were actually lynched. And the topic came up at work. That is one of my favorite cities. I want to move there, but I've never heard of this, and that really disturbed me. So I went to my library and I found a book about it. Lyncher in Me is written by the descendant of one of the white men who lynched the African Americans. It sounds fascinating and horrifying and gruesome, but something I really feel like I need to read. Then we have Kari-ng by William Dalrymple and Anita Anand. This is the history of one of the world's most famous diamonds, the Kari-ng diamond. This was found in India and then given to the British during their colonization of India in the 1800s. I'm fascinated by the history of this diamond, and I'm really excited to get to this. Next we have some of the same library books that you've seen in my library haul. Starting with The Book Nobody Read by Owen Gingerich. This is a book that Nicholas Copernicus wrote, I believe, about the sun, the heliocentric as opposed to the earth-centric. And I know there's a word for that, I just don't know what it is. He wrote a book, nobody read it until 18th, 19th centuries. 19th, 20th, sorry. And so it sort of follows that book and discusses why nobody read it and what it means and all that. Then we have a book about black holes, which is Empire of the Stars by Arthur Miller. Given that we just got a picture of a black hole for the first time in the last year, it seemed fascinating, and so I'm going to read it. We have Clockwork Universe by Edward Dolnick, which is Isaac Newton and the Royal Society, and how that sort of brought science into modernity a little bit, with the whole idea that we stay on this earth because of gravity. Again, fascinating, not something I usually read. I've had this for about a month now, it's time to get to it, but I took out a lot of library books all at once. Penultimate one is The Queen's Bed, An Intimate History of Elizabeth's Court by Anna Whitelock. I suspect this one is going to be similar to Elizabeth and Her Inner Circle, simply because both of them sort of deal with the closer intimates of Elizabeth. I'm excited. I don't know exactly what conclusions this book is going to come to, but I'm always down to learn anything about Elizabeth. And then the last book is Wars of the Irish Kings by David Willis McCullough, and this is a history of Irish kings from, I don't even know. But it includes Elizabeth and Finn McCool. Those are the only names I'm going to pronounce because the rest of them are very Irish and I don't want to butcher them. but I don't know a lot about Ireland, and it seemed like a good time to start. Like I said, it wasn't meant to be an ambitious month, but I've done the math, essentially, and I know that I can finish, at the very least, all of my library books without even touching my weekends for reading. Which means that I should have plenty of time to get all of these done, and maybe a couple of other books, although I will have to make sure they are shorter so that I don't just lose my mind. Anyway, those are all the books I'm hoping to read. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!